Getting your arm pinned under a boulder for 5 days, being hit by lightning nearly a dozen times, and cheating death 7 times only to win the lottery after everything is said and done. All of this on today's most amazing top 10 list. Coming in at number 10, we have Aaron Rolston. This is the real man who the movie 127 Hours is based off of. This guy was hiking through the Blue John Canyon and he lost his footing and went tumbling down a crevasse, but when he did, a boulder came loose and came down on his arm. This pinned him in the canyon and now he was stuck. He thought his best course of action would be to wait for someone to come help him. It was only a matter of time before he was found. Well, he waited for 5 days and he was going through every last granola bar and water pack that he had. Eventually it was clear that he was not going to be saved and he had one of two choices: either die from dehydration or cut his arm off and maybe die from blood loss, but that would be his only chance at survival. Turns out cutting off his arm was the right move. It wasn't an easy process though. Not that any of you at home would think that cutting off your own arm would be an easy process. First he had to break his arm and then he had to take out a pocket knife and cut through all of the meat and tendons. This left him with a bloody stump for an arm, and then he had to trek his way out of the wilderness to find help as he was bleeding out. It's moments like this that make you understand how powerful the human body is and what we are able to accomplish when we really push ourselves to our limit. Coming in at number 9, we have Natalia Pasternak. Natalia Pasternak came face to face with a brown bear who wanted her dead. She was walking through the forest in Siberia with a friend, and then all of a sudden her dog started to act up. There was clearly something very close. It was a brown bear. The bear quickly killed the dog and then beelined it straight for Natalia. Her friend tried to fight off the bear, but the lady that Natalia was with was 80 years old, so she didn't really have the strength to take down a bear. Once this woman realized that she was no match for the bear, she took off to go get the police while Natalia was left behind being tossed around by this massive beast. The bear thought it had killed Natalia, and something that bears will do will bury something they've killed so they can come back to eat it later. Eventually Natalia's friend and the police came back to find Natalia buried but still alive. She was taken to the hospital and survived. This lady is tough as nails. And guys, don't forget to hit that like button, it really helps us out. Coming in at number 8, we have Anna Williams. This young woman was nearly killed by the infamous BTK killer back in 1979. This is a horrific story. Dennis Rader, who is more famously known as the BTK killer, had picked Anna as his next victim. He knew her place inside and out and had been watching her for probably around 3 months. Late one night he broke into her home, disabled her phones, and then he waited in the darkness for her to arrive. But she never did. Anna was out at a party and she never came home that night. Eventually the BTK killer left. Anna came home to find her house broken into, and then later got a letter from the deranged man that was a poem about the night that he broke into her home and stayed up late waiting for her to come back. That is terrifying. Coming in at number 7, we have Anna Bagahome. Anna Bagahome was stuck in freezing water for so long they had to use a machine to heat up her blood to bring her back to life. Unless you're Wim Hof the Iceman,
I don't feel the cold, I feel the power.
Not all of us can withstand that kind of cold temperature, but Anna Bagahome absolutely did. She was skiing in Norway and lost control and went to a river. Obviously getting wet while it's freezing outside is bad for your health, but you'll probably be able to get bundled up and returned back to normal after a little bit of hot cocoa. Well, Anna was in a tough situation. She was actually wedged under the ice. Her friends had to come and rescue her, and it took them 80 minutes to get her out of the water. In this time, her body temperature dropped from 99 degrees Fahrenheit to 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Normally, if a person's core body temperature drops below 80, they will die. But Anna was strong enough to make it to the hospital, and as I said before, they used a machine to reheat her blood because at this point her body was so cold it was legally dead. Only 10% of people are able to survive this procedure, and she was able to come out of this alive. Coming in at number 6, we have Caleb Whitby. Caleb would get in one of the most horrific car accidents you can imagine and walk away without a mark on his body. He was driving home from work and collided with a semi that was in the same lane as him. This caused him to lose control of his car. The semi and him both swerved into the oncoming lane, and then another semi coming in his direction smashed into them. The two semis sandwiched Caleb in his car and caused a huge multi-car pileup. Paramedics arrived on the scene along with the police and firefighters, and after the dust had settled, they realized that trapped in his car like a little kid down a well was Caleb. He couldn't move. All he could do was yell for help. It took them 6 hours, but eventually they were able to cut him free from his car and pull him out. And once he was free, he might have been a little stiff from being cramped in there for so long, but he had 0 injuries. That is insane. He was packed in a car tighter than a hot dog gets packed in Joey Chestnut's stomach. Coming in at number 5, we have Melvin Roberts. How many times is too many times to get hit by lightning? Well, once should be enough, but how about 11 times? Melvin Roberts has been hit by a bolt from Zeus more times than I have won a crown in Fall Guys. This guy is literally a lightning rod. I mean, the list is supposed to be about lucky people who survived, but getting hit by lightning 11 times sounds like the worst luck of all time, but it is good luck that he's been able to survive all of this. He's been hit so many times, he knows how food tastes after you get hit by lightning. He talked about how getting hit by lightning makes everything have this sulfur taste because the lightning will cook your body from the inside out. His insides must not be a very happy place. There's even a time where Melvin got hit by lightning when it was sunny out. That seems like it should be a crime against nature, but so far this dude keeps on ticking. He's 62 years old and might have a few lightning strikes left in him before he kicks the bucket. Coming in at number 4, we have A Day in a Volcano. Now this sounds like it would be a sweet little getaway for a lava monster, but this was a horror story from Michael Benson, who had to live through this while he was shooting the movie Silver. Michael Benson and Chris Duddy were getting some aerial shots from a helicopter when things started to take a turn for the worse. The helicopter lost control, and after a series of maneuvers, the two of them had to exit and were standing inside of a volcano in Hawaii. Chris was a little bit of a younger dude and more acrobatic, and he was able to climb out of the volcano and then took off to go get help. Michael was stuck in there with a pool of lava bubbling below him, waiting for his body to fall in and get turned into a soup. On top of this, the intense heat was threatening to knock him unconscious, and there was a ton of fumes that were constantly billowing out of this bad boy. At any moment, he could have passed out. But right when things seemed that they were too far gone, after this dude had spent a day in a volcano, he was rescued. Coming in at number 3, we have Ron Hunt. You think if a drill went through your eye and into your skull, it would be instant death. Well, Ron Hunt must have a brain made out of Teflon because he walked away from this one without any brain damage. I remember seeing this story on TV when I was a kid. It was back in 2003, and Ron Hunt was working as a construction worker. He was about 6 feet off the ground using a ladder. At one point he started to feel the ladder wobble, and it was pretty clear that he was about to head straight down towards the earth. He threw the drill but ended up landing right where the drill was going to land. The drill went into his head and through his eye and out the back of his head. He was extremely lucky because the drill bit moved his brain out of the way. After everything was said and done, Ron lost his eye but had 0 brain damage. Coming in at number 2, we have Emile Loray. Imagine being stuck in the middle of the Sahara Desert, your car just crapped out, and you barely have any supplies left. This is the sticky situation that Emile Loray got himself into. He was a French tourist who worked his way down to Morocco for one reason, and that was to take his little car and zip around off-roading in the sands of the Sahara Desert. Well, he did this, but his car broke down, and he was quickly burning through all of his supplies. He realized that if he was going to try and walk back, he would die, so he started to scrap his car for parts and made a makeshift motorcycle and rode it back to the city and survived. Coming in at number 1, we have Friend Salak. Friend Salak has been killed nearly 7 times and survived every single one of them, and then he won the lottery. This guy is probably the luckiest man who has ever lived.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like your opinion, man.
But hear me out. The first time this guy almost died, he was 33 years old and he was on a lovely train ride. The train derailed and crashed into a lake. A bunch of people were killed, 17 to be exact. But Fren is strong like bull and he walked away without a scratch. And that wouldn't even be close to the end of his problems with transportation. While flying on a plane, the door would blast open and Fren would get sucked out of the plane and fall to the earth. He would land on a haystack and live. The plane would crash, killing a handful of people that were on board. Later, he would be in a bus crash, a car crash, hit by a bus, and have the engine of his car blow up twice. And like I said before, this guy won the lottery and walked away with millions, and take this, he gave most of it away. This dude said life isn't about money. He kept enough to live comfortably with his wife and gave the rest of the money to all of his friends. What a legend, dude. Alright guys, that has been our list. Thank you so much for tuning in. Until next time, I've been your host, Jay Dorena. Goodbye.